This is the Kandao QooCam 3. This was just released today, and it features 1/1.55 inch sensors and 62 megapixels. An aperture of f1.6. So inside of this package, you're going to be greeted with the camera itself, and it also comes with 2 lens guards. It does come with a bunch of stickers and a single battery that is interchangeable. Now currently the 360-degree camera king is the Insta360 X3. This camera is, in terms of its size, capability, and versatility, we're going to also be putting it straight head-to-head against this new challenger to the scene. Overall, the Kandao QooCam 3 is actually a superior product when it comes to picture quality and a little lacking in software. The first part of this video will talk a lot about the software discrepancies, and then later on we'll talk a lot about the picture quality. I think software is an easy fix. Kandao usually supports their products on their website at least long term, so I think it's safe to say that we'll start to see software updates in the future as well. Stabilization is not done on camera. It is done externally, either in an app or in a desktop client. So you will notice really quickly when you start changing and tilting the camera that the actual content on the screen also tilts. Whereas the Insta360 X3, when you tilt the camera, the screen maintains the orientation and actually stabilizes what you see on the screen. I actually prefer the screen stabilization on the Insta360 X3, but again, that's personal preference. Now, currently at the time of recording this video, there is no single lens modes. That means you cannot individually record out of either the front or the back camera. So you are basically stuck with only 360 mode. Whereas the Insta360 X3 has a 4K 30 FPS option if you want to record just out of one of the lenses with stabilization. So that means you're stuck using this exclusively as a 360 camera. And while 5.7K is a lot of pixels, when you're trying to get something maybe focused on one area, you don't need all 360 degrees. You easily can make do with 4K on a single lens. Both the Insta360 X3 and the Kandao QooCam 3 do all their stabilization externally. While the Insta360 X3 may stabilize the screen that you may see, both cameras produce video that needs to then be processed externally. Though replaying the footage on the X3 will at least show a semi-stabilized view from a limited window. Now, one of the first things that you'll notice is that the Insta360 X3 and the Kandao QooCam 3, the screen sizes are similar in size. However, the Insta360 X3 has a substantially higher resolution screen than the Kandao QooCam 3. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it is bad per se, because I have had dead pixels on this X3 as pretty much as soon as I got it. I actually had a couple red dead pixels up in the corner here, and this was not something that I got as like a first version. This was something that I actually received well after they had been producing these for a while. While the screen size is a little lower quality than on the X3, the QooCam, in my opinion, is more than adequate, and it doesn't have dead pixels yet. When it comes to the user interface on the X3, you just have so many more options in terms of recording modes and single lens modes versus on the Kandao QooCam 3. However, I do think that easily over time we may start seeing more and more software revisions. Also, you have some haptic feedback on the X3, so when you start moving and pushing buttons, it just feels more complete. When it comes to the Kandao QooCam 3's app user interface, I actually find that the Insta-X3, while it's been around longer, is a little bit more well-defined. Again, this is basically comparing a product that just released to something that has been out for a while. The desktop client is the same way, allows you to do stuff that's very similar to the app, change angles. Also, let's talk about tracking for both of these devices. So tracking would be done externally. Again, all of these cameras are going to do is just record, and the stuff that's really important is the software suite that comes behind it. So it looks like on both these devices, the tracking, inbuilt tracking is pretty solid. You can make your decisions on which tracking you prefer. You may notice that this camera looks very similar to the GoPro 360 camera, and you'd be right. It looks almost identical in terms of form factor. You have, of course, the offset lenses, and you also have that screen up here. However, the construction, everything on here is very solid. In terms of the Insta360 X3, you've got a solid rubber outside as well as directly opposed lenses. For the selfie stick that was included with both of these, the Kandao selfie stick is a little bit longer. In my opinion, a little bit more robust. I found that the Insta360 selfie stick, this grip right here, often sometimes gets pushed upwards, whereas that's not really a problem with the Kandao grip. When it comes to audio recording, you have 4 different channels that you get out of this Kandao QooCam 3. This is the Kandao QooCam 3. This is on the different sides. As I rotate the device around, it looks like you have two microphones on either side, one front facing, one side facing, one back facing, and another one side facing. It doesn't look like there's anything on the bottom. And they actually sound relatively good for a 360 camera. You only get two out of the Insta360 X3. This is a test of the two microphones on the Insta360 X3, the right side and the left side. So the additional recording options is very nice, and the different audio levels that you can kind of pick and choose from, especially having all these different microphones all over the camera, end up being pretty solid as well. So price-wise, the camera itself comes in at $350. The whole bundle with everything you see equipped here with an SD card, lens covers, stickers, selfie stick, etc. comes in right around $389. And then of course you have some higher end models. Whereas if you just want the Insta360 X3, that's going to come in right around $410. And that does not include a selfie stick or an additional SD card. If you want a selfie stick, an SD card, and a lens cover, you're looking at paying around $460. So that means that this comes in right around $60 to $70 cheaper than the Insta360 X3 for, if not most times, better image quality. These cameras are very comparable in image quality when you start taking pictures. This ranges all the way from high end to low end. Now the Insta360 X3 is going to be rather slightly sharper in higher brightness areas. However, I found that higher brightness areas really means like on a super sunny day. Other than that, you're going to notice pretty quickly in average environments that the Kandao Cam and the Insta360 camera are pretty much comparable. While yes, you have a larger megapixels doesn't mean anything, and it's actually really the size of the pixel on the average day kind of situation that's going to make that difference for you in terms of picture quality. If pictures are something that you're really important about and you have a well-lit area, then the Insta360 X3 would be for you. However, if you really want to focus on video and get the best video quality, I definitely think the Kandao Cam is much better in terms of video quality. Now the stitching algorithms are not yet complete. I found that the Insta360 algorithm, especially when we were using this, really actually did this pretty flawlessly. You rarely actually ever saw any part of the camera, whereas the Kandao camera still has a little bit of tweaking to go. You occasionally do get some type of, ghosting or shadowing of the edges of the camera. And of course, that's the con of having these opposed lenses. I think that these are all software tweaks. They'll be coming up shortly. You have 72 megapixels and 62 megapixels, which means that you can go all the way down to 12 megapixels on the Kandao QooCam 3. So let's start about the video quality on here. I actually personally find that the Insta360 X3, when you are in an average environment, for me this is a lot of times like in a gym or something, you're recording yourself doing something. When you move the camera, you have a lot of vibrations. This is very common in a lot of stabilization algorithms. And so you may notice that especially in low light, that the optical flow can't keep up and you'll notice vibrations. This was not something often present or rarely present on the QooCam 3. This uses maybe more gyroscopic stabilization. However, I just found that the video that came out of there after going through the multiple steps ended up being a lot better stabilized and looked a lot better. With that having less vibrations, you can actually see things clearer. So in my opinion, I also think that the QooCam 3 definitely clearly looks a lot better in terms of image quality. You do have to keep in mind that this is in the scope of being a 360 video. I'll include a bunch of, clips down below in the description that will be full 360 clips. So then you can take a look at those in the full 360 viewer from YouTube. But overall, I personally find that the QooCam, in terms of video quality, average and overall, actually looks substantially better. Between stabilization and the actual video clarity in the average environment, I actually personally prefer this. In bright environments with HDR turned on, you'll notice that the X3 does perform slightly better. However, you really have to go out of your way to find a proper environment to get usage out of the X3 to its fullest potential. Whereas the Kandao QooCam 3, I find produces better video overall in most environments. So most of the time, if you want something that you don't have to really go out of your way to find video, or you're concerned that your video is going to turn out well, the Kandao QooCam 3 has a 4K 60 FPS option for 360 video, and of course that 5.7K 30 FPS. The Insta360 has the same rough options, however, you also have the addition of that single lens shooting mode. So in conclusion, if I'm working in a low light environment and I want 360 video, the QooCam 3 is hands down better. For video, absolutely. If you want something that is in moderate environments that you want to get good 360 video out of, especially where the Insta360 lacks, I definitely say the QooCam 3 is the way to go. If you're looking for something that you can kind of edit on the fly with an app, both cameras will do solid on that, and the Insta360 is a little bit more user-friendly and has a few more extra options. If single lens mode is something that you're interested in, especially in the state of today with no additional option to do so on the QooCam Q3, I'd say the Insta360 X3 is probably going to be your way to go, especially when it comes to just using a single lens mode. Simply put, 5.7K spread out over 360 degrees versus the Insta360 single lens mode is not going to be able to compete. The video quality out of that is just going to be better. So in conclusion, thank you very much for watching. Check out the channel for other cool tech related news and reviews, and I hope to see you around next time. Goodbye.